Hello, everybody. Welcome back again to the Planet Film Network. I am one of your hosts, Sean Monk.
And I'm your host, TJ Cornwell, and tonight we'll be talking about a few things. We're going to talk about Barry so far. Did you watch Barry?
I did.
All right, we're going to
I
talk
did.
about Barry. We're going to talk about Guardians 3, of course, as the title says. Not much really news, I don't think, to talk about. If you want to, are you caught up on Ted Lasso as well?
It's always so hard for us to remember. What was the
Right.
last episode? The
The
last
last
episode
one
was
the pictures getting leaked or the video or whatever it was.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm
I
caught
just
up
want
on
your
that.
thoughts on it because I've seen some discourse, and I don't know. I might be in the minority.
And I'll pop into with my thoughts on this week's Succession. I unfortunately did not have a chance to get my weekly review up, so I'll pop that in as well. But yeah, what's do you want to do?
Yeah. I haven't really watched. I've honestly not watched anything. I'm just gonna pause real quick to listen to myself and see if I sound like complete crazy.
Sounds fine, on my end at least.
Sounds okay. Okay, we're gonna keep going with that. So I just want to talk about Jedi Survivor real quick. From my personal experience, I still haven't finished it. I am like halfway through at this point. Told you, the story took a turn, and I was like, "Whoa, I didn't see that one coming." I mean, I saw the light spoiler. I saw the betrayal coming, but I didn't expect the Force user. I did not see that one coming.
I feel like we're almost 2 weeks at this point.
Right.
Thumbnails on what I consider reputable YouTube channels. Star Wars Explained is posting a certain
spoiler stuff,
a certain DV in thumbnails as is Force Center. So I feel like those are my barometers for spoilers. So if you want to just dive in, what'd you think? And by the way, the boss battle that I've been telling you about that took me ages.
Oh yeah.
Was Darth Vader.
Oh yeah. Oh, I died. So I died once. I haven't gone back to beat him yet.
Oh, okay. I see. You died. That's literally what I told you. You were like, after the twist, you were like, all right, I think I'm going to call it here. And I was like, I think you're going to go a little further and then stop during the boss battle.
Yeah, I lost once, and I was like, we're still going. I was like, this is the third phase.
I know.
No, yeah. So I got to the third phase, and just for transparency, I lowered the difficulty. I was at what's the
you
middle one?
Knight,
Jedi Knight.
And then you
I lowered it to Padawan. Getting my ass kicked. And again, I don't know if it's just me, if I'm just bad, but this game kicks your ass. I can't imagine on Grandmaster or anything. I would be so frustrated.
I am playing it on Grandmaster again, right now for the New Game Plus. So for New Game Plus, well, first of all, just to go off of your thing, knocking it down to Padawan, and me, I mean, now that you're kind of further along in the game, we were talking more about the difficulty and everything, and you and I agreed, it is difficult. I'm watching Star Wars Explained. I'll literally be playing it and just watching his stream because he streams it like 4 hours at a time, so I just watch that through. He's saying it is crazy. He literally made merch. I think he made merch, or at least a huge part of a meme on their channel was how long the Terran Malakis fight took him in the first game, and he just spent, Ravis the Gendai, he just spent literally 3.5 hours fighting him on Grandmaster.
Yeah,
3.5 hours just fighting that one guy.
Nope.
Yeah, I couldn't even imagine. And then the Padawan thing, they literally made it for me, because they knew that it's a harder game, because that level, it was just Jedi Knight and then story mode in Fallen Order. There was no in between. So they literally were like, hey, this is...
I wonder if I did story mode then. Maybe I did for Fallen Order. I don't remember.
Maybe, but also I feel like Jedi Knight and Fallen Order was easier. I just feel like it was easier, but I don't know. But I mean, what are your thoughts? How do you feel about everything? So you said that the twist of Bode was spoiled, but not the
No, it wasn't spoiled. I could tell leading up to it, just from their interactions, before the point. I was like, oh, he's very standoffish, obviously, and he's talking about a lot of his kid and all this stuff. So I knew something was gonna happen.
Maybe we should go check it out. Before everybody else.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe? Yeah. I saw it coming, but I obviously didn't see the whole Force user part of it, which was really cool. Really liked that you got to play as Seer too. I thought that was a really cool.
Oh, dude, that was thing. So.
She just like wipes people out in one hit. Is that just me? Where she just 100%. Like murks them easy.
100%.
Which again, really cool to feel OP. The only thing with this game, and it unfortunately just affects my view of it because I've been playing with it, is just how it runs. It still does not run well.
And you're playing on PS5?
I uninstall it. Yeah, I did your uninstall thing and reinstalled it, and it still does not run well.
Because I have had no issues.
Sorry, I shouldn't say it doesn't run well. Yeah. It does not run great. Where I still have like these frame things. Like I forget which fight it was. I think it was like the second fight against or maybe it was the third fight. Yeah, against Dagon. The cutscene, it was just like I was like, this just ruins it. Like it ruins the moment for me, which really sucks. There's something, I don't know what it's exactly called, but it'll be this thing where it's like I'll just like turn the camera and it like if I'm looking at a certain way, there's like streaks of white showing, almost like the textures aren't loaded yet.
I have seen that. You're talking about on the very edge?
Yeah.
I think so. I have absolutely seen that. I don't think it's a graphics thing. I think it's some weird. It's definitely a glitch, I think, but it always happens for me at least around a meditation point. So I'm wondering if it's like some force glow effect on the screen that just isn't like rendering properly. Like that's the best that I could work out, because it usually happens around a meditation point, and then I'm not like looking. I don't like see it go away. I just like will look and I'll notice that it's gone. But I have definitely seen that, like the little white like feathering at like the side of the screen for some reason.
So like those are my only issues. I have come across. I haven't come across like a ton of those again force kind of tears. When we were talking about those last week, I came across one other one, and it was probably one of the easier ones that I happened to see on TikTok or YouTube, where it was like the 150 battle droids you have to kill, and I was doing really well, and then I died at like 120 or something. I was like, you know what, it's not worth it. So that's I don't remember where it was. Okay. But I think maybe that's my other critique, I guess. It's just sometimes I feel like I'm seeing like, like I think there's one with like 2 Rancors or the 2 like frog things.
Yeah.
It's like, well, here's your skill point. It's like, what? That's it? That's all I'm getting? No, I get it. It's a skill point? And to me, it's like not worth it.
Yeah.
Personally. But again, if you want to challenge yourself, then obviously, it is. The one that I did like and that I do want to do more of when I find them, if I find them, is just the traversing ones. Those are cool. Those are ones I don't mind. It's more the battles.
I actually have yet to complete any of the traversal ones.
Yeah.
Like
I've only done one of them.
I don't know if you've gone. I guess this one you would have had to have gone back to Coruscant, which.
Oh yeah, no.
You don't. You literally. Slight spoiler for you. You literally never go back to Coruscant in the campaign, but it's the planet is playable. But it's the one on Coruscant, the Tear, which is that it's like the gateways. So the green gateways. It's you have to jump and then time your fall to then dash through another one and then get your double jump back and then get up and then do like, so it is like you're thinking in like the 4th dimensional space. And I tried like 4 times and I just gave up. I was like, I cannot figure this out for
the only one I've done is on Jedha, I think it is, where it's got like the it's like a bunch of moving platforms, and it's the red kind of wall thing, and every time you jump it switches sides, so you have to like time your jump correctly to like get it on the right side so you miss it. I did that one. I tried that one about like 10 times before I actually like got it. It took me a few minutes to like realize that my jumps were affecting the way the thing like the way it worked. Because at first I was like, how am I supposed to do that? Like it's literally just coming at me and I can't go anywhere. And I was like, oh, I see. But that was cool. But yeah, I'm having a blast with all the force powers. You know, I think I'm really starting to get the hang of the combat as well after playing a few days. Which again, like
what are your stances? Telling you,
I'm a big I'm double bladed and what's the heavy one?
Crossguard. That's the right answer.
Yeah.
That is the right answer.
I feel like you know, so like good. Crossguard, you deal a lot of damage with it, and I just feel more. I have more defense, which I like with the double blade. I feel like.
Yeah, because you can literally get an attack off and a block off at the exact same time. I will say I have hardcore. My main has definitely been the crossguard for sure. Like 10 hours into the first playthrough, I got the crossguard. Well, obviously you get it earlier than that, but I used the crossguard and I never looked back. I mean, it is so great. But then for a while I was doing crossguard and double blade, but I switched over to crossguard and dual blade because like I said, I really like the ability in this game to do the full reset of your skill tree. So, because basically now I'm hovering around on my main save, I'm hovering around like 48 skill points, I think. So it's not like I do it all the time, but I've done it like I think twice. But like every time I do it now, I have like 45 or 50, so I can fill 2 entire stances full, like to get the max benefit of all of them. And so I did that again, and I maxed out the crossguard, and then I decided to go back to the dual wield, which going into this game and coming out of Fallen Order, I loved the dual wield in Fallen Order more than any other way to use the lightsaber. And in this one, I just really fell in love with the crossguard, but I was like, I want to challenge myself and make myself do the dual wield, so I maxed out the things, and it was like, oh my god, the dual wield is insane. The top skill on the skill tree for it is it turns your lightsaber throw from just normally the dual wield is you just throw one, you just hold on to one and you just like throw one like that, like a frisbee. Now when you do a lightsaber throw with the dual wield, he throws both of them and it bounces between enemies multiple times and then snaps back to your hands. And I was like, oh my god, that is like amazing. And then it was one of those things where right after I upped the skill, I like jumped down from the meditation point and there was like 8 enemies there, so I could like try it out immediately, and it was just so great. But yeah, I feel like the power in this game is so much better. Like it just feels more like I heard somebody say like crunchy. Like when you hit somebody, when you just get that like perfect hit off, it just feels like it's got that like Star Wars, you know, lightsaber like pow to it. But yeah, really, really awesome. I'm sure we will check in many, many more times about Jedi Survivor in the coming weeks, months, everything like that. Let me see what I've been watching. Other than obviously, we both watched Guardians of the Galaxy this week. Let me see if I can work Letterboxd. Oh yeah, okay. So I saw Guardians of the Galaxy on the 4th, and then I came home, went to bed, and then that morning on the 5th, me and my roommate were looking for something to watch, and we were going to watch Manhunt, American Manhunt, the Boston Marathon bombing documentary on Netflix. And I don't know if you watched that documentary or not, but it opened very graphic, very like because you know there was so much footage of that day right on the scene and everything. It opened very graphic, and it actually made me think about I don't know if you'll remember exactly the one that I'm thinking of without spoilers, but there is a sequence where there are some bombs going off in kind of a residential area in Guardians 3. And it like reminded me of that like instantly. And I was like, oof. I was like a little I was a little put off and uncomfortable, so I was like, all right, let's not watch the documentary. So then we were like, all right, let's watch a movie about it. So obviously the only two choices, right now is either Patriots Day or Stronger with Jake Gyllenhaal and Tatiana Maslany. And I was like, okay, do you want like the cop side of it or like the person side of it, basically? And so we ended up watching Stronger with Jake Gyllenhaal and Tatiana Maslany, which I've seen before. I've seen both of those movies. I really I really prefer Stronger. It's just more of a character-driven character story, going through this very deep emotional stuff, and the acting is phenomenal. I am not gonna slouch on Peter Berg. I like Patriots Day as well. It's just it handles the event in two very different ways. One is like the rah-rah, like American, like, yeah, we got him, like, and then one is like the human fallout of, what can happen. So yeah, I rewatched Stronger. That was the only movie besides Guardians I watched this week, and I thought it was really, really phenomenal. I don't think I'd seen it since 2017, 2018, whenever that was that it came out. But yeah, I mean, Jake Gyllenhaal, fantastic movie. And it's on like Tubi, like it's on like all the free streaming services and Netflix, I think, and Prime or something like that. But yeah, that's really all I've been doing, I guess. Other than that, I have not continued yet with the White House Plumbers. I gotta get back on that. Yeah, other than that, that's pretty much it. I've just been playing a ton of Jedi Survivor. But yeah, let's you want to talk a little bit of Barry?
Yeah, let's talk about Barry. I'm interested to get your take.
You texted me, so to start.
Well, real quick, I'm just gonna start this as a clip, real quick.
You got it.
Maybe. Hold on. Oh, hold on. I gotta launch the Steam Deck app. Okay. All right. So Barry, episode 4. Or episode 4. What episode was it? 5, 6? I think it was.
5. I think it's 5.
5. Okay.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this show? I think we kind of predicted it last week on what maybe where we were going.
Yeah.
So what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, well, like I said, you messaged me today. I think I was still at work. Yeah, I think it was still at work. You were like, "What are we doing with Barry?" You were like, "What are we doing on Barry? Like, what's the deal here?" And I was just like, "Oh God, what is that?" Like a million things went through my head. And full spoilers for Barry. I mean, it's just mid-season right now, so full spoilers for just the middle of the season here. I think, like you said, I think we talked last week about, this past episode ended with this like jump forward in time, and then it ended on that. It just ended on that, and not you, but one of my other friends at work was like, no, it can't. They're not really gonna do a time jump like that, like in this show. And I was like, I don't know. Barry, usually they will do like things that look like that, but they won't ever end an episode on that. You know what I mean? Like they won't ever end the episode like that. So I think it's gonna stick. And then like you texted me and warned me, it stuck. And I think you and I had referred to it maybe as even like that it was going to Better Call Saul itself for like the last couple episodes here. And it looks like we just straight up are, which is, I don't know. I definitely, so far, I find it very interesting. It's just one of those things that just seems that it has happened, and the show is very firmly saying, yes, this is happening. You need to get on board as fast as possible, basically. Because I've seen, I still actually still life update. I have not reinstalled any of my social media, but I did right before we were getting on here when I was waiting for you to join the Discord. I pulled it up on my computer. I pulled up Twitter, and it was the first time I'd gone on Twitter in almost Yeah, 2 weeks. And immediately, like, I don't know if it was just the algorithm or what, I just saw all this Barry talk. And I think that Roka was tweeting about it too. Roka was like I mean, I love Roka, but his tweet to me was just insanity. He was just like, the reasons I don't buy the time jump. Sally would never do that to her body and have a kid. And Barry, there's no way that Barry wouldn't kill anybody for 8 years, and there's no way that Jean would just be this like recluse or whatever. And I'm like, that's a lot of assumptions off of, what really we only got like maybe 5 minutes of actual fact from everybody, because a lot of this episode was just kind of everyday life in this new life for, what is it, Emily and Clark,
right?
But yeah, I mean, I definitely, I mean, I literally just watched it about 2 hours ago, so I'm still very much just trying to adjust to it. But what did you think of this time jump of 8 years? Because that was the other thing, was how long of a time jump is this? I mean, do we even know? I mean, it's definitely implied, I guess, but like, do we even know? Is this just Barry hid them himself, or did it still go through with the deal with the feds for like witness protection? Like, is this like a sanctioned new identities, or is it like not a sanctioned new identity?
So I interpret it as they are on the run very much, and they are hidden out wherever they are.
Yeah.
Just for the simple fact that he fled the prison.
Yeah, that is
and
true.
they didn't know where he was.
Yeah.
You would be asking a lot of me for me to believe that he went back and then got the deal, and now I mean, if they got the deal, why is she like kind of hiding her hair and everything? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess like you could say, like, I'm assuming obviously they don't live in California. They live in some, just, some desert somewhere. Which again, I don't know how they get that house, like that house in the middle of nowhere, and then there's like these random kids playing baseball in the middle, in the middle of nowhere. But if they're in some completely different state or country or whatever, I don't know. Why does she feel the need to wear a wig?
Yeah.
Especially if her name's different. So for me, I'm taking it as they're on the run. They got this house, I guess, somehow. They have whole new identities, and they have a kid who obviously they have not told anything to. And they both have kind of these new personas as well. Whereas Barry is this kind of, he's playing this historian dad who is very devout to God, I guess, from what I can tell.
Very interesting.
Which I think, Sally's kind of in on that as well, but she's also clearly sick of this because, she's drinking, it seems like, all the time.
Yeah.
And he's drinking as well. He's just, I guess he's doing a better job of hiding it, which is a little, I don't know, if you don't have subtitles on, you might not even be able to hear it, but they're arguing about it at one point.
Yeah.
When their son's sleeping. So yeah, for me, I take it as, they're on the run. They have these new identities. They still have, like, obviously internet access we've seen and stuff like that, but they're kind of living their life as these new people.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, I don't know. It's just very, I don't know if I would be on board with if they all of a sudden were like, like the FBI guy shows up and he's just like, hey, just checking in on things. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if, I think I would be like, oh, okay. But like, I could give it, this show, the benefit of the doubt that like the FBI maybe in this universe just doesn't really give a shit about like the prison. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like, because they portray everybody as like these kind of like bumbling versions of authority and stuff. But that being said, I mean, we have apparently Jean now 8 years later going to Warner Brothers Studios to speak to the head of Warner Brothers to do a Barry biopic.
Gonna make a
I guess so. I don't know. Is the axe of Zaslav going to appear in next week's episode?
Yeah.
I don't know, but what do you think about this whole gene thing and just the time jump in general? And like, what do you think?
I mean, I think there's a possibility there's another time jump. Maybe if they make there's only 3 episodes left, they're doing this biopic. What if what if the way they fill in the gaps is in a biopic, and they actually make the movie and it's an hour and a half last episode or something ridiculous? Would you be on board with that, or would you be like, that's you're taking it?
I mean, I would definitely maybe that for like the second to last episode.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that we can have that little diverge,
Right.
and then wrap it up truly, at the end like that. But yeah, I think that would be very, very interesting if they did that.
I mean, because we have to know like what happened with the Chechens and Hank and
where is Hank
Kuzuno's
dead?
son? Like is he dead? Kuzuno's son? Did he shoot his son? Like,
I mean, he definitely.
He shot him. So, yeah, he shot him, but did he kill him? I mean, I guess is the real question.
Well, he's apparently also been missing and presumed dead for 8 years.
Dead for 8 years, yeah.
So I would assume if he was presumed dead, I would assume maybe his son is dead. Ooh.
What happened to his kid? Doesn't his son have a kid?
Yeah, I don't know.
I guess he went maybe he's an orphan.
Maybe that's John. Maybe that's their son. They stole him.
Or what happened to what's his name? Jim Moss.
Yeah, I was asking that. I said to my roommate, I was like, man, I just hope that Jim Moss is dead. I was like, I really freaking hate that guy.
Trying to think of any other characters. Fuchs, yeah. We don't know what happened to him.
Is he still in? Is he like the ruler of the prison now?
Right.
I don't know.
I mean, we have 3 more episodes to find out. Hopefully that gets resolved. I pray to God it does. If it doesn't, I mean, this might be like the
ultimate fumbled bag.
I guess. Nah, I don't even want to say that because some of the episodes in this season have been really good so far. It's just like they did this like really big thing where it's like, okay, how are we gonna like wrap everything up in these? They took
a really big swing.
Yeah. But how did you like the Barry showing his son people getting killed playing baseball?
Yeah,
montage of like 3 YouTube videos. I think it's the thing of like, from what I gather is what it seems is that I'm guessing he's homeschooled, that kid.
Yeah.
Because I don't think we ever see him go to school or anything.
Who knows if there's a school around there?
Right. Right. It seems like he wants everybody to remain recluse and inside. So not to really have any contact without the outside world because it might draw attention to them.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm assuming that he's like, when his son's like, "Oh, I want to play baseball," and he's like, "Well, no, you don't, because these kids die when they play baseball." Mm-hmm. So that's what I gathered. Again, I could be very wrong, but that's just what I'm guessing. Big Abraham Lincoln fan too.
Well, I guess he was.
He was.
He kind of put him off the whole idea.
Yeah. The whole book, he was like, "Oh, maybe."
Yeah,
not.
You know what? With kind of everything that he was showing him, he was kind of doing that with, because even Lincoln, like the kids started getting interested in Lincoln and like, oh, is Barry going like, oh, my kid wants to be a lawyer. All right, let me tell him all the bad shit that Lincoln did. Like, you know what I mean? Or even Gandhi.
Real quick, last thing I just thought was very interesting. I don't know if it was, maybe it's not intended. I'm just looking too much into it. But like when they seem to order everything off of, I don't know what they order everything off of, Amazon, and under obviously a fake name and this random address. When the kid's like, "Did you get my comforter? Because like it's really cold in my room." He's like, "No, I didn't get your comforter." And then he's like, his son's looking at this book, and Barry's like, "Oh, my Abraham Lincoln book." It's like you could get yourself a book, but you couldn't get your kid a comforter because he's cold. I feel like we have our priorities a little mixed up here.
Yeah,
maybe I was just reading too much into it, but it just seemed like it was like we're kind of neglecting this kid's needs. Where he's like, "I'm freezing in my room." He's like, "But I'm gonna get my Abraham Lincoln book."
I I think the idea is just that this is the life that Barry has always wanted, and we've seen him dream
this
about.
Life?
And I think the idea
Mhm.
is that in reality he's bad at it. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like, how many times have we seen his mind like wander away and see him and Sally at like some church event, you know, dancing with each other or something like that, or wanting to be. I mean, going back all the way to the first season, they've literally done a fake future in this show before even this season. I think it was season 2, or it might have even been the end of season 1, when there is this like fake out where it's set in, but instead of this type of life, it's like this, like they have like this nice rich house and they have these like 2 daughters and stuff like that. And so I think this is like kind of the life of like, oh, I'm gonna be a great dad, is like the life that Barry always wanted for himself. And I think the idea is just that in reality he is bad at being a dad. Yeah, anything else you want to touch on with Barry before we move on? I mean, it's definitely, like we said, taking a very big swing at this point in the show, but I think I'm definitely sticking with it. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna stay with it. Very interested to see what happens going forward. Hopefully, again, we can wrap this all up. Let us know what you thought about this episode of Barry in the comments below, and check out some of our other reviews on the channel.
Absolutely. Boom. All right. Next up, I just wanted to give my quick thoughts on Succession.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna keep this real quick, and I'm gonna clip it out for my weekly Succession video. So I watched season 4, episode 7 of Succession, and I gotta say, I absolutely loved it. This season continues to just build and build upon itself, just getting deeper and more effed up with all the character storylines, how everybody's intertwining with each other, and it all kind of came to a head at this party. Roman making a lot of mistakes here, kind of dealing with the fallout of his mistakes, yelling at Connor. Connor, again, Alan Ruck just being a kind of totally different side of Connor, a more kind of confident, you know, more willing to just embrace who he is version of himself. And, you know, Roman tries to kind of tear down at that exterior and say, you know, there's that moment in this episode where he just goes, you know, man, everybody that's here just thinks you're an idiot. And Connor hits back with the, you know, well, I'm going to ask the one person in this room that doesn't think I'm an idiot, my wife, what she thinks, and I'll go based off of that. Thank you. And, you know, not only is that a great character moment between these 2 great characters of Roman and Connor, but also you think back to all the times across the seasons that Roman has basically implied that Connor, as his older brother, really was more of a, you know, parental figure and did more of the day-to-day raising of him than even Logan did. But so seeing them kind of blow up at each other, what I thought was interesting and a dynamic we hadn't seen before. Everything that Kendall's doing with, you know, the backpedaling, making deals with Frank, everything like that I loved. And then really what came to a head is the kind of blowout to end all blowouts between Shiv and Tom finally just kind of, he even says it in the episode, clearing the air, getting everything that they wanted to say, you know, but have left unsaid, getting it all out in the open in this amazing, amazing scene of the 2 of them out on the balcony in this episode. And I just think it's some of the most phenomenal acting that Sarah Snook and Matthew McFadden have ever done on the show. And I just think that the dialogue, again, is just so strong. and it keeps you invested. And there's stuff that if you've been watching the show since day one, or just binged it or whatever, when you have that knowledge of the show trusts you with that knowledge. And so within this fight, they'll just throw in a line that's like, that thing you did to me 3 years ago, that we all watched in season 2 or whatever, in season 1, they'll bring it back up again, because it is recent history for them, just like it is for us. We've been watching their lives, and I just thought that was done really, really well. But yeah, absolutely love the episode. The show just keeps getting better and better. Only 3 episodes left of it. Me and TJ, just now on our show PFN Live, we just talked about where Barry is at in their season, and these shows are set to end on the same night. So it is definitely going to be crazy on HBO for the next 3 weeks. But absolutely love this episode of Succession. But let me know down below what you guys thought of this week's episode of Succession, and we will catch you in our next review. All right. So next up, we talk some Survivor, we talk some Barry, we talk some Succession.
I want to talk about Ted Lasso real quick.
Yeah.
This is, we don't have to clip this out because this is just like a general discussion more than a review, I think.
Yeah.
Oh shit. I don't think I recorded any of the audio for when we were talking about Barry. So
I think I have it recorded.
If you have it, then
I think,
by all means.
at the very least, it'll be on the YouTube.
Yeah, we could do that too. Hold on, let me set this up real quick. Stream. Okay. Yeah. So Ted Lasso came out last week, obviously. A lot of discourse online I've been seeing, especially with this episode. Really? And maybe I don't know. Maybe it just didn't bother me because I was watching it at like 12 o'clock at night, and I was tired. I'm going along. I'm just kind of going along with what they're giving me. But I feel like a lot of people had an issue with, and this isn't the first time it's happened this season, where they kind of just stop with the story and just start this random kind of public service announcement out of nowhere. And this one was kind of like the don't spread this, nude pictures or anything online that have been sent to you or anything after you've broken up with people or after somebody's wronged you or any of that. It was very kind of just like a jolt of like, okay, we stopped from talking about everything else, about what we've been doing in the season so far to this kind of thing, and then we made the whole episode about it. What were your thoughts on that? Did you find it very out of place? Like, I feel like I've seen a lot of people say this.
I mean, like I said, I've been kind of out of the loop on a lot of people's reactions to a lot of these shows. I first of all definitely see that, like 100%. I could see where anybody would say that. But I feel like that's kind of the MO of this show is kind of, definitely every episode leaves you with like a message, but then it does sometimes go, deeper into, this is the message that we want. This is not only the message, but this is our view on this message that we want you to, I feel like this show does kind of go that extra step and that far with it. But, I really, really loved the episode, though. I mean, I liked the whole thing of, Keeley, the video going out and, kind of, I will say spoilers for this because, I mean, it's a week old at this point. But, kind of Rebecca in the past few weeks has raised a couple questions about Jack and about how the newness of their relationship and just warning Keeley, like, listen, don't fall for that. And we as the audience are kind of put in between of being like, yeah, Rebecca has experience with that, but also, we want to root for Keeley and everything like that. But, this episode really, I think, put to bed that, I think the relationship with Jack was a little quick, maybe a little hasty. And I think you really got that with the whole response, with the whole letter thing. As soon as she started reading that, and Barbara said that she didn't write it, because your mind immediately is like, oh, Barbara probably wrote that, because it's so like, it's like, I apologize, I shouldn't have done that, I regret it, you know what I mean? It was like, it was everything, you're just reading off a list of like, well, that is not something that Keely Jones would say in any stretch of the imagination. And so I actually really liked how they dealt with that aspect of it with Jack, her actual partner, almost kind of shaming her. Not really almost, she kind of did by the end of the episode. And they got into their big fight, just kind of fully shaming her for it. And, saying that whole, and I think, like I said, I think it's fair that people say that, but also I think that the broader message wasn't just like, oh, don't share them. It was like, if stuff, because, famously, like, the Jennifer Lawrence hacks just come to mind as like one of the most high profile like celebrity leaks, like this kind of thing. I think that for that, a lot of people's narrative was, well, she just shouldn't even have taken those. Why do they even exist? And it's like, I think the show is just saying like, hey man, people are people. People are people, yeah. And maybe some people would consider that, people make mistakes, but also there's people that are just like, no, it's just part of, it's part of how I show affection, stuff like that. And Keely definitely falls into that. So I think, if anything, like I said a million times at this point, I can see where people are coming from, but I just think it's such a positive show, and it knows its characters and it knows its audience so well. It just didn't bother me. I just was like, after Keely kind of took a backseat, I think 1 or 2 episodes ago, it was nice to kind of get an episode focused on her and kind of really resolve some of the things that she's been going through this season, to kind of get her, because now we're getting to the point where we're at the midpoint of the season, so we're kind of swinging everybody around to now go into their kind of finale arcs. Yeah. Which is crazy. So much good TV, and then there's none of it, and then it'll all be back at once, and then there'll be none of it. Yeah, what did you think?
Yeah, I wasn't really that thrown off by it, honestly. Just because, like you said, I feel like at this point, I feel like this is what I've kind of expected the show to be at some points, and that's what it's done a few episodes this season. I feel like it's done more this season than any other season that I can remember. I'm okay with it. It doesn't really bother me in any way. Again, I'm watching this late at night, so I'm not really, I'm in it honestly just for like, I like the story, but I also love the sport that the show is based on, or that they're, that evolves that is involving the show, and that's another big reason why I really like the show. So I'm watching for a lot of other different reasons than just like, I don't really mind when they kind of go some other way and go, into maybe some people might say it as preachy, I guess, or something like that. It doesn't really bother me as much. But overall, I thought the episode was fine. I'm interested to see like where, how we kind of wrap this up. I know they're probably going to do another time jump, just because they've, we're in the Premier League. We have this season, and we've, we started off with wins, then we lost Zava, and then we were losing, and then we're back. We lost to, I think it was Arsenal, but we were trying out our new formation and our new tactics, and we stumbled on, oh, we can play this way. We lost, but we scored a goal or 2, I think, and we're coming back. So I'm interested to see like where we go from here. I pray that maybe it ends up like, somehow they're facing off against West Ham. Yeah, exactly. They're facing off against West Ham in some, final match day, and it's. West Ham needs a win to secure the title for the league, and Richmond can stop them from doing that by beating them. So I don't know, something. That could be interesting. They're really trying to bring Nate back, it seems, to really get you to like him again. I don't know if I'm really there yet, because I really don't think we've earned that yet. He really was an asshole, and he's still kind of, he's trying to do his own thing. We saw like they try to do like he tries to do his own version of the Diamond Dogs at the West Ham with I don't know who the one guy is, but maybe like his assistant coach and some other dude.
I figured it was probably like his Higgins and his coach.
Right. And like Rupert's like, like I'm not coming to that stupid meeting or or even like because we have like those moments where it's like, Ted brings his son to the game and they're like, oh, hey, watching. And Rupert's like, don't worry. Like we'll never let that happen again. They won't get in again. And he's like, and Nate's like, good. It's like, well, you just, you're trying to get me back into liking him, but you just made me not like him. Yeah. So it's like, which one is it?
I think that specific example that you bring up about him saying like, don't worry, we won't let them come back again, and him being like, oh yeah, good. I feel like that specific thing of what the hell? I just like completely lost the train of my thought. Oh yeah, that specific thing with him saying like, hey, we'll make sure that they don't come in again. And he's like, yeah, good. I feel like that shows to me that like he's gonna need a hard break. Like this is not something that like, oh, Nate's just gonna become better at West Ham. I think that that's like, no matter how hard, maybe I'm just benefit of the doubt with the writers or giving it more credit than what it's presented so far. But to me, at least, I think it's like no matter how much Nate wants to redeem himself, he's gonna bow down to external factors that are gonna keep him at odds with Ted. You know what I mean? Like as much as he was like, starting to worry about Ted or feel bad about Ted, Rupert's gonna be there to be like, yeah, screw Richmond, all this stuff. And so I think Nate's gonna have to realize that he's got to get out of that job. Whether it'll be the theory that we had, I think like 2 or 3 weeks ago where we were like giving our finale prediction that all of a sudden, Nate would leave West Ham and then have to somehow end up coach Richmond in the final, so that like Ted can go back to America or something. I honestly still feel like if this is going to end with a series finale this season, I do kind of think that that's where we're going. Is that Nate is going to have this big revelation, quit West Ham, and then Ted's going to somehow be out of the game, and Nate's going to be like, hey, I'll step in, or at least maybe him and Coach Beard together are going to, will be like take on like head coach duties or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I think I agree with you. I think I'm not quite all the way there with Nate yet, but I'm way more with him now than I thought that the season was gonna get us. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's funny because just talking about like, the writing and stuff. I heard it on a podcast, I think like earlier today or yesterday, that Jason Sudeikis had been like liking tweets about, people like complaining or about the show or whatever. He's liked a few. And this one popped up to me. I'm going to read it. This is me quoting. Okay. I'm not actually the one saying this. So this is from Normalus Guy on Twitter, and he replied under a Apple TV tweet of Coach Beard and I forget what the kit guy is, what his name is, Will, and it's like Will dressed up as Coach Beard, and the guy said, and I quote, "You should be ashamed for allowing a great show like Ted Lasso to get so unwatchable. Gay sex and leftist political propaganda has ruined your once great story. Who outside of Hollywood do you think would want to watch that shit?" Wow. End quote. And he like, I'm assuming, obviously Jason Sudeikis, I'm assuming trolling, obviously.
Yeah.
So he's like liking these tweets, which I find pretty funny. But yeah, so that's just one person who really doesn't like the way the show has gone, and I'm sure there's a lot of them.
I don't know why. I don't know how you wouldn't watch the first episode of this show and not think that it is a leftist show. Like this is not The Boys that is a leftist show. Sorry to break it to you, anybody out there. The Boys is a leftist show, but The Boys also goes after the left. It goes after its own point of view. Ted Lasso, not so much. Ted Lasso is much more straight up, those kind of positive views, I'll say, and they just kind of stick to their guns on that.
Last thing I'll say real quick is it's funny that I feel like the West Ham Ted Lasso version and the real life West Ham are complete opposites, because the West Ham in real life is struggling to stay in the Premier League. I think they're going to make it at this point of the season.
They're like Richmond.
But like West Ham in the show is like, I think they're probably top of. We don't know exactly where they are in the standings, but it seems like they're like, first, second, like in that area. So
I think the last time they showed standings, they were second next to Manchester United. But yeah, Ted Lasso. All right. You want to get into it? Are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So what you guys have been waiting for, what you all came here for, we are going to talk some Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Oh, do you want me to record this, or you got it?
I guess we both can, just in case.
Okay.
Let's see. All right. Oh, before we actually get that, I just want to see. Michelle in the chat says, I like Ted with the whole nude picture stuff. I was mainly happy to see it ended relationship with Jack and Keely. I had a bad feeling about Jack and that she would end up hurting our Keely. And in case you missed it, Ted has the same matches as Rebecca. Yeah, so the green matches. Again, very interesting. I think we gotta watch that. I think we gotta watch for that. Those two kids there. All right. So, time is upon us. Time to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So this is the third film in the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy, again brought to us by writer-director James Gunn, coming off the back of the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker. And then obviously, right before his big launch as the head of DC Studios with Superman Legacy. What the writer's strike will mean for that project and everything else moving forward, we do not know. But at this time, we are going to dive deep into this movie. Right now, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, the latest movie from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Keeping things spoiler-free here for the first bit. TJ, overall thoughts, emotions, how was your reaction in the cinema? Did you cry? Did you laugh? Did you hate it? Did you whatever? What did you think of this film?
I really, really enjoyed myself at this movie. Really liked it. Cried maybe 3 or 4 times, I'd say. I think.
Now, are we talking like tearing up or like crying?
Oh no, there was one point where I was like, I don't know if I can like imitate it, but it was like the quivering like lip, like like that. And I'm like trying to hold myself together because there's probably like 30 or 40 people in the theater with us. I'm like trying to hold myself together. But no, I really, really enjoyed it.
You've seen it once?
Seen it once, yeah. The action, the comedy, the acting, the story, it all worked for me. The look of it, the direction, and I think it's fair to say, this is one of the better MCU movies that we had in a while, in my opinion. But I really enjoyed it. A few critiques here and there that left me from really loving it, like fully. But overall, really, really solid. And I do want to watch it again. I don't know if I'll go to a theater, but I also don't know if I can, just because it's it was so sad. And if you have any sort of animal that you care about, I think it affects you even more, in my opinion.
Dude, before I even give my thoughts, I just gotta say, and I'm gonna show it to you on this little test subject. Hang on.
Okay.
So on my desk, on top of my box for the microphone, I have this little baby Grogu. And the way that the High Evolutionary would grab Rocket, and he would go like this. He would squeeze. Right. He would squeeze behind his ear.
Yeah.
And it literally happened. And again, that is not a spoil. I think he even probably shows it in the trailer. It's just a touch. It's just a touch that Chukwudi Iwuji who was fantastic. I know we both loved him in Peacemaker as Myrn. I know a lot of people did. Super big fan favorite of that, fan favorite character in that show. It's just a little touch that he did that every time he did it just made me like squirm in my seat. Cause I know you have a dog, you got a big, chunk, getting bigger every day. But like, I got a little guy. I got a little, Charles is a little cat guy with a head very similar to Rocket's. And when I don't know, man, I've seen the movie twice, and every time he grabs him and he puts his like hand under his ear and he like grabs his jaw, I'm like, dude, let go of him. Like, I have like this primal reaction, and you just made me think about that, and I just had to mention that because I guess I'll just hop into my initial thoughts. It like that word that I said, primal, like this movie is just like, I'll just rip the Band-Aid off. I've seen it twice now. I don't think it's the best MCU movie in a couple of years. I think it's one of the best MCU movies. I know recency bias, and I know that I came out of Love and Thunder, and I was like, I liked it. It was, good. And, Doctor Strange, I definitely came out of way higher than kind of where it's landed for me. And then Ant-Man, I still do think that Quantumania is a fun movie. I still will die on that hill. I think it's a fun movie. It's better than Love and Thunder for me. We could argue until the cows comes home about Multiverse of Madness or not, but
I gotta rewatch it.
This movie, it just had none of that. And I knew that we were in such safe hands because just the opening scenes of the movie, the song opens with, and I know people, this is everywhere already, it opens with an acoustic version of Creep by Radiohead. I mean, that's like, I feel like already that song has kind of become synonymous with this movie. And just the fact that, first of all, how they play that song, who's listening to it, how it kind of goes about all that. But the fact that that song kind of, this movie, and we really obviously, I want to spend a chunk of this talking about the music because it's so important to these movies in this trilogy. When the title card came up, the first title card is Peter dancing, and you get the hey, and it's like, oh, boom, Guardians of the Galaxy. Second one, Baby Groot. This one is like sad. It's dour. It's a downbeat. I've said to anybody who will listen to me, this movie is about 8 people who hate themselves. And, and I think I only say 8 because, as Mantis says, Drax is the only one who doesn't hate himself. And I feel that. And when we get into spoilers, I have specifics that I want to mention, specifically about not only Peter Quill and not only how Peter Quill is written, but I do think this is Chris Pratt's maybe best performance in a movie. And that's saying something because he gives a phenomenal performance in the first 2 Guardians movies. But I think, honestly, this is my favorite performance of his in anything. And I say that as a diehard Moneyball fan. So that's a high bar for me. But in terms of my initial reactions in the theater, I mean, just like you, and Michelle put it in the chat here, she knows a PFN host needed at least 4 Kleenex from my purse. Dude, when I saw the movie for a second time yesterday, there was whole minutes that I didn't see the first time because I was literally, I had my glasses and I was like, oh my God. I was dying, like so emotional, and laughing and just, oh man, who was it? I think it was Winston A. Marshall on I watched the spoiler discussion that Christian Harloff had on his channel with Winston and Coy Jandreau, and I think it was Winston that just was like, it's the first movie in a while that I got caught up in. I wasn't going, man, Sam Worthington, I hate that people say that about Sam Worthington. He is really great as Jake Sully. I wasn't thinking those like movie things watching this movie. I wasn't going like, man, I wish Zoe Saldana had more to do in this movie. Which is, I'm talking about Avatar, not in this one.
Right.
But like, I wasn't thinking about that. I wasn't thinking like, I wonder what this would have been like with Emma Fuhrmann as Cassie Lang. Like, I'm thinking that while watching Ant-Man for the first time. What would this have looked like without the volume? You mentioned the look of the movie. I think, and one of the reviews or whatever that I saw made point to say, I think a big difference is this movie had obviously a concerted effort to make it look like something. Whether that was your taste or not, it looks like something. It has a look to it. It has a tone to it, a vibe, a color palette. And I just think it was phenomenal. And the performances especially. I thought it was incredible. Very, very good. But yeah, let's see.
What's your star rating on it?
Okay, I gotta reassess because we have six. How long until November? What is it right now? 6 months. So 6 months until November. Almost to the day. So almost 6 months to the day for the Marvels. So we have a little bit of a gap here. So I'm gonna take that time to reassess my Letterboxd MCU ranking. I only say that because I gave Quantumania a 4, and then also just out of an abundance of caution, in case this movie, sunk like a stone with me, the more I thought about it, which it absolutely has not, I gave this 4 stars as well. And then I did not rate my second viewing yet because I wanted to save it for this. I think I am going 5 out of 5.
Wow.
Yeah, and that is a Sean that is trying to be more frugal with his star spending. I think if I had to think right now, I would probably move Quantumania to a 3, really a 3.25, because I feel like a 3 is too harsh, but probably a 3.5 for Quantumania. And this I would give a full fat, warmed up in the microwave 5 out of 5, for sure. What about you?
I'm at a 4 currently. Now that might change on a rewatch, as well as I'm just thinking in my head, I gave Multiverse of Madness a 4 out of 4.5. So I'm like, does that really, but on rethinking, I'm like, well, I feel like this is definitely a better movie than.
It's
and
tough
I love Multiverse
because it's your shoot from the hip.
Right.
Sometimes we don't get to it immediately, but it's within 24 hours. It's how you feel about it. And now you're a year away from Multiverse of Madness. It's kind of tough. But so would you think you would stay at the 4, or do you think?
I'd be willing probably to move it up, but I'd have to rewatch it again. Yeah, just wanted to shout out Geek Ledger in the chat said, I gotta say, saw it over the weekend. My personal favorite MCU movie, and in my opinion, the best MCU movie yet. Now, I don't know if that means like the best ever, or if he just means like, or she or they means like, recently or something like that. But yeah, I agree with that as far as lately. Definitely up there. Would you now this is just before we get into spoilers and all that stuff, would you say, and I was thinking while I was watching it afterwards, and I don't think it's the correct term to say this is the most sci-fi MCU movie, I feel like, because maybe sci-fi isn't the exact genre that this is, because it's just it's just an action adventure comedy. That's what it is on IMDb, those genres. But I would say, just thinking of, like you said, it's got a feel or like a vibe. This is very Doctor Who-ish to me, where we have these different planets. We have the animal person planet, and we have this weird kind of company with these people in these weird suits, and we have it's just very like something I'd watch 100%. On the BBC at 8:00 at night.
It's very and it's funny that you say that exact question, because a lot of people said that about Quantumania. Is they're like, this is the most like sci-fi Marvel movie yet, and I think that both of them, I think Quantumania and this, I think probably are the two most sci-fi, because the first 2 Guardians movies I would say are more cosmic, more Star Wars-esque. And I think that this movie in particular, Doctor Who or even like Star Trek almost reminds me of. And obviously between the spacesuits and a bunch of other stuff, there's direct comparisons to like 2001, A Space Odyssey, not the year.
Right.
And I think like for sure. I hadn't really even considered that, but yeah, I think probably the most sci-fi straight up, just because it's like, you know, we gotta infiltrate this space station. There's a, you know, it's just more kind of sci-fi serial adventure stuff in this, while at the same time being the most dour of any of the three. They somehow managed to like the actual what they were doing. And then you have like Mantis. Like I just feel like Mantis very like she just feels her powers feel like a Doctor Who character. You know, you know, but Mantis, some of the stuff in this, she was just killing me. And Drax, so much to talk about. But you ready to head into some spoilery territory?
Yep.
All right. Well, everybody watching right now, Geek Ledger, The Breakfast Bitch, Michelle in chat there. Brandon, if you're still watching, I know Brandon's, it's been tough for him to get out to see movies, so I don't know if you've seen it yet. But anybody who's watching, let us know all your thoughts on Guardians 3 in the chat right now. Let's go ahead and move over to spoilers here. So, I mean, what do you want to kind of attack first? I mean, I'm good to just go scattershot, just anything that comes to mind, because there's just so much. I could talk about everything.
Yeah, I first want to talk about, I guess, just Rocket's whole thing. As well as we'll loop High Evolutionary in there as well, I guess.
Yeah.
For me, like, I thought that whole story with Rocket and these friends that, you know, he has in they're all in these crates and trying to dream of a life on the outside, I'd say. You know, Rocket coming to the realization that they're all gonna, you know, die. And trying to save them. I thought that was just heartbreaking. Like it
Dude, when
it was just
when Floor starts screaming, when Rocket is just he's just a little guy. Like he's just a little guy and his whole world is falling apart and he just doesn't no idea what to do other than just scream. I was like, God damn.
I found it very interesting, like the end, like one is like a bunny, but her like mouth has like a metal thing over it, and she's got like spider legs kind of, and there's a walrus with wheels for legs, and what's the other one?
Lila with she's the otter with robot arms.
Oh, yeah. All those are very kind of interesting designs, but also just very sad. And James Gunn, I thought he just did a really good job of, you know, building up kind of in a very, I feel like a short period of time. You know, we get a little bit with them. We don't get a ton because that's one way he keeps Rocket in the movie, because Rocket's really not much like around, like present. You know, he's very much flashbacks. But I felt like he did a good job of
kind of about that. Because I mean, obviously in the marketing, Rocket was huge front and center, and everybody was like, "This is Rocket's movie. It's Rocket's movie." Anybody who could tell you anything would say it was Rocket's movie. So we all just figured, "Oh, this is gonna be Rocket's movie," and then at the end, he's gonna sacrifice himself. He's out in the first 5 minutes. Like he's off the table. Yeah, and then it's all flashback. Like, how did you? I was definitely shocked for sure.
Yeah, I enjoyed the flashbacks. I thought they did a good job with them. You know, kind of seeing, you know, what he had been going through, and before, you know, we got to know him. I thought, you know, that was all done really well. And then just to bring the High Evolutionary into it, I thought he was pretty just like, he was just a psychopath.
Yeah.
like he, you know, and I think, you know, there's that one line, I think, where Rocket says like he doesn't want a perfect world. He just doesn't like the way it is, or something like that.
Yeah.
And you know, I think maybe we could, if we had more time or something, we could have gotten more into that kind of High Evolutionary, what his kind of end game is. Like while I was sitting there, I was kind of while I was watching. I was like, okay, well, you know, he doesn't want it to be perfect or anything, but like, what is his like what makes it? What's the next best thing if it's not going to be perfect? You know what I mean? Like, what's his idea of, you know, all this stuff, him doing all these experiments? What's the end game, I guess? And maybe he said it, but I just kind of wanted to go maybe a little bit deeper into that. But the performance. Sorry, what's the actor's name? I apologize.
Chukwudi Iwuji. I think you can call him Chuck. That's what everybody called him in the interview.
Oh, really? Well, his performance was just amazing. Fantastic.
What did you think about the like yelling? I've seen this complaint of almost throughout the probably the one most prevalent complaint I've heard across everything I've watched is like people yell in this movie a lot, but specifically him. They're like, it kind of takes away some of his menace. I didn't really mind it, to be honest.
I disagree. I thought he was more menacing because he's just, you know, he created Rocket, and you know, and then Rocket turns out to be smarter than him. And imagine being the creator and having your creation know more than you.
Yeah.
So now you're the inferior one.
Yeah.
But, you know, everybody else around you is supposed to be you're the god. And I think at one point, oh my God, what's her name? Elizabeth Debicki's character. Or maybe it's somebody else. It might be Gamora. She's like, you know, there's parts of the universe where they call him God or something like that.
Gamora, yeah.
And I don't know. I thought that added a lot, and I was, you know, he definitely scared me. I'm definitely on the like, you know, he's one of the top tier MCU villains for me, at least.
Yeah. I am so glad. I agree 100%.
Much better than Ronan, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it's crazy how the villains in Guardians, like I would put him above Ego. Like it's crazy how every movie the Guardians villains just got even better. It's like James Gunn was like, okay, I understand these characters, so like he had more brain power to divert to the villain in every subsequent movie. like Ronan was just like, oh my God, I spent all this time on the main characters. What about the villain? Totally opposite with this guy. I totally agree with you. I think that the yelling did not, I won't say like, oh, it made him even more menacing. I just thought it was just all part of it. You know, to me, when he yells it, when he pulls Rocket out and he's just like, how did you know? Yeah. Where did it come from? If you know it and I don't, how? Like, how do you have independent thought that I don't have? And I love, too, the contradiction of, you know, this is what he's screaming at Rocket about. And in a way, clearly scared. He is scared that either he's scared of Rocket as a threat to his knowledge. He's scared of Rocket as, oh my God, I created something beyond myself, like I have no control over this raccoon. You know what I mean? Like, but then also later in the movie, he's mad about it when he's talking about all the children on the ship, this new batch, which also I love the fact that he says, you know, I've been doing this for centuries of creating these civilizations. So like we know he created the Sovereign. And then clearly after the Sovereign, he turned his focus and wanted to test with animals. And then I like that we saw that all because by the time we catch up to him in the present, he's totally over animals. He's done with the whole. It's like it was just a phase for him. You know what I mean? Because it's just he's done with the animals. He blows up their planet, which we'll talk about. And then he's just on to now all these little kids with white hair. I guess like that's now his current fixation. But I just thought that he was fantastic. Everything, the whole like mystique around him, I thought was really, really good. That like he's not necessarily this like evildoer in the shadows. He is somebody that like he has this legitimate business, Orgo Corp. He just uses the profits to fund his. You know, they said something like, you know. Like, you know, he's not above law or something like he couldn't just go into the like Kree space and just start kidnapping people for experiments. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's kind of got to do some of this stuff in the shadows. Like, he's not one of these Thanos, like, he can't be questioned, you know, by anybody. I got very much the impression that, like, if the Kree could get their hands on him, like, they would like stomp him out. They just don't care to. And so I kind of liked that bit, that like this wasn't some like untouchable guy, because very clearly Gamora says, you know, some corners of the galaxy, you know, not all. So I really like that. But yeah, and then just the performance on a freaking raccoon, dude. Like, when he's standing there and he's like, "How did you know?" And Rocket's just like, "It was the filters. And it was the filters."
And shout out to the other two kind of voice actors as well that voiced or that the actors that voiced Rocket. It wasn't just Bradley Cooper. I think Sean Gunn did Young Rocket, and then
it was Noah
Raskin did Baby Rocket. I thought they all knocked it out of the park.
They were fantastic, and I loved, like, I know that kind of the hype machine for this movie was like, oh, this is Rocket's movie. This, you know, over and over and over again, like, but like, I guess it's just like, it just kind of sneaks up on you how endearing and how beloved of a character Rocket is. Something as small as when little kid Rocket, one of my favorite scenes of the whole movie, the song "Since You've Been Gone," which was in one of the trailers too. And in the trailer, it's this kind of like dour, like, "Since you've been gone," like as if like since you died or since somebody's died. But in the movie, it actually flipped it, and it was kind of an uplifting scene of him and his friends all playing around and playing, you know, tag with each other in the cage, and just like these like they're associated with like Rocket's happy memories of that time, the very few that he has. And just a little thing in that, when they're all laughing and joking and Rocket like starts like slapping his knee, like we've seen old Rocket do. Like, that's how old Rocket laughs, is he'll like put his hands on his knees and stuff. And so just seeing that you're just like, oh, he's becoming Rocket, like, you know. And then even just over the course of the flashbacks, him, you know, gathering more speech and talking more and more like the Rocket that we know, like when he's, you know, giving the explanation and he's like, and then it makes, and she gives the long thing and he goes, yeah, it makes thems. Like, it's like, like where's this guy talking? And he tries to correct him with like an English accent, but it just doesn't stick. Like, I loved all that stuff with Little Rocket there. But what do you want to talk about next? We could talk Peter, Drax. Let's kind of go. Man. We could go character by character. Let's talk about Adam Warlock.
Let's talk about Adam Warlock.
Yeah, Will Poulter. Let's kind of take a character by character here. Well, how did you feel about his entrance, what he had to do in this movie, etc. And what did you think of Will Poulter as the character?
I thought Will Poulter was great. Very off-put. I was very caught off guard by how he was introduced, where he just kind of shows up. You know, he's just, you know, you see this guy just hurtling towards nowhere. And he's like, "Oh,
shot,
I'm here."
It looks so good.
Yeah. I just think for me, this is one of the negatives to this movie, or maybe just something I didn't enjoy as much, is I just felt like he didn't have a lot to do. And you know, we haven't seen anything from him since the end of Guardians 2, as far as teases to Adam Warlock or anything.
Yeah.
And he shows up. He's clearly powerful, obviously, but they do make it a point to tell you that he is underdeveloped. You know, he was taken out of the chamber early. And I do kind of like how Will Poulter plays it as this kind of bumbling kind of kid, where, you know, he's grown to be 40 or 35, but his mind is like 12. Which I find interesting. I just don't think he had a lot to do. And I think they kind of had to find little things for him to do. And he just kind of, it's like, you're a villain, but you're not a villain, but now you're on our side. It was all kind of clunky for me. And I didn't really enjoy his kind of hero moment. It didn't quite work for me. Yeah, I thought it was gonna be. I did not expect it to be him because I just felt like he was kind of. I don't know. I felt like he had that moment with Groot right before that, so I was like, maybe he's. But I guess they said second chance, so I don't know. It just didn't quite work for me. A little. But yeah, I thought Will Poulter was great, and I'm interested to see what they do with him going forward.
Yeah, I agree, and I don't agree at the same time because I agree with basically all of your positives, but it just really worked for me. I liken this to, and now I will say, I think I liken this to, you know, this isn't the Adam Warlock movie. You know, this is the movie that Adam Warlock is introduced to the MCU. And so I think of it like Civil War with Spider-Man. You know, not Civil War with Black Panther, where where Civil War Black Panther's the third most important character. Well, third or fourth depending on where you put Bucky. You know, like he's the third or fourth most important person in that movie. I put this more like Spider-Man. You know, he is important to the movie. He's in the movie. He's getting introduced in the movie. But now, what I will hear you on is, I think maybe you could say that Civil War handled Spider-Man easier or quicker or more concise.
I also real quick, I think it might be also easier with the character experience just because he's very well known.
Yeah, it's more what is this Spider-Man gonna be, not who is this.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think that's a big difference. And like I was saying, I think it's a big difference that Spider-Man, it was like, boom, Queens, and then he's in the movie for 25 minutes, and then he's out. You know what I mean? It's like he's in for the airport fight, and then he's out, and that's it. Adam he's in at the beginning, then he disappears for like an hour, then he's in it, and then he's in a couple more scenes, and then he disappears for like an hour, and then he shows back up on Counter Earth. But you know, the whole entire OrgoCorp sequence of the movie and the scenes on either side of it, you know, he's nowhere to be found in that entire section of the movie. But I will say, I thought that the hero moment did work for me because he's in the beginning of the movie, who's the main person that he fights is Groot. Him and Groot go at it, and he, you know, decapitates Groot. But you know, luckily this Groot, and I don't want to overlook, I definitely don't want to not talk about Groot. I definitely want to talk about Groot in this movie, but you know, he fights Groot, and then at the end, it's Groot who tells him, you know, everybody deserves a second chance, and I just bought into that. I just bought into he loses his mother, and I liked it multiple times throughout this, and I'll touch on it again definitely when we get to talking about Peter specifically. You know, this movie, it's all kind of fun and games until shit's getting real. You know what I mean? Like, he's going after, you know, Rocket. He's trying to catch Rocket on the ship. He's taking out the War Pig or whatever the one minion was called. Like, he's taking out War Pig, and then as soon as he hears the bomb start to go off, he's just like, mother, and then he just goes as fast as he can. And I liked it in the trailer. You know, you see that shot of him flying through the street, trying to go as fast as he possibly can. And in the trailer, you're like, oh, he's probably going after the Guardians or something. But to know that he's just trying to get to his mother as fast as he possibly can, and that he almost gets there, and then, you know, she dies right in front of him. I just bought that. I just bought into it, and I loved... And I don't think you touched on this because you said you didn't buy his hero moment, but I loved his humor. He was killing me when in the final battle, when he like flies into Peter and Gamora's ship. When he like flies into Peter and Gamora's ship, and they're kind of having a standoff, and Gamora grabs the Blorp or whatever, or like the little creature that Adam has. When she grabs him and she goes, what is she say? She's like, stop right now or I'll slit his throat. And they just, in the middle of all this action, it just close up on Adam and he goes, now don't be rash. Like I died laughing at that. That was so funny. Like, and just the humor with Gamora and everything. I thought it was so funny. Just the extreme swings that she would go to where they're like, we're not going to kill anybody. And she's like, everybody put your guns down or I will blow her brains out over the wall. Like, you're like, what are you saying? Like, she was so just like intense. She reminded me of like Nebula from the first movie. But yeah. And then, I think that's kind of everything with Adam.
Yeah. That's definitely
I mean, well, what do we think? If we're going character by character,
I just want to see if we can maybe
go for it,
combine some of them. So can we do like a Nebula, Gamora, Peter talk kind of that little love triangle that is kind of going on, I guess, in the movie.
I thought it's fantastic. I think we definitely talk about Chris Pratt and everything, but I thought just starting with Gamora. I think that Zoe Saldana does, and James Gunn, because I think when we're talking about all these characters, it's truly an equal parts, the writing with the performance, because, James Gunn, yes, he had kind of a curveball thrown at him with Gamora dying in Infinity War, but he had all of the tools of sci-fi at his disposal to fix it.
Right.
So, he could have
seems like also
easily...
that like you said, that was very much like oh shit. Like, oh, yeah. You're okay. you're killing her off. All right. Well,
I think what people see, yes, but also, like I said, I think they were like, hey, we're gonna kill Gamora in Infinity War. But I think they definitely were like, but whatever you need, we will make it work story-wise for however if you want to bring her back, if you whatever. Like, I think that James Gunn totally could have just been like, oh, but good thing she kept all these video logs. And, you know what I mean? Like, or like, oh, good thing she always backed up her eye implant. So, they could have done anything like that and then just been like the new Gamora plugged into it. Oh, and she's back. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but the fact that he kind of almost in a way challenged himself to be like, no, I'm not going to do like an easy sci-fi fix of this. She's a different person now. What does that look like? And I think that a lot of her in this movie absolutely works for me. But I think what sums up in the best moment is when she's arguing with Peter and, she's like, just drop me back off with my people. And he's like, your people? You're not even a Ravager. I'm a Ravager. And then at the end of the movie, she goes back onto the Ravager ship and they all give this big bear hug to her. And Stallone's like, oh, welcome home. And it's like the whole thing is that like Peter's like, that's what. And then you found your family with the Guardians. Like, this movie is about he's got to understand that she's a different person, and we find out at the end that this version of Gamora did find her family. She already has her family, and he
as
says,
weird as it may be.
Yeah, exactly. And Peter says to her, he's like, and the old Gamora definitely wouldn't have called home with like a bunch of criminals, which is ironic because the Guardians are a bunch of criminals. But I just love that, and I loved everything that she did in between that. The "I bet we were fun" line was like, oh, damn, like, jeez, like it's just so much like heartbreak baked into every single line of this. But what did you kind of feel about?
I echo basically everything you said. I thought Zoe Saldana did a fantastic job playing a new version of the same character. I thought her and Chris Pratt did a really good job of kind of still having that kind of chemistry where it's like, obviously, it's a different kind of chemistry where their characters don't, or one character, still knows you as this other person, but you have no idea who this person is.
Yeah.
And to go from obviously, what we've seen in previous movies to this is a big shift. And, sometimes it might not be that easy to pull off, but I thought they did an awesome job with it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, all that I thought was great. Trying trying to think back to like what else happened. I just thought I thought the progression just of her kind of, I guess in a way understanding where he's coming from, but also going her own way. I thought that all worked really well in the movie.
Yeah, like, because I mean, I think about, and we can kind of use this. We can transition on to talking about Chris Pratt and Peter Quill. Forgot the main character's name. I think about that scene with the spacesuits, of again, absolutely incredible way that James Gunn can weave, a serious moment and then just push it right into this great comedic moment. Where he thinks he's on the private channel with her, and I just love that he's like, we were in love. Like you loved me and I loved you, and we cared about each other. And she's just so respectful and just like understanding that. And she just like looks at him and she's like, I don't think we were. Like, I'm so like, I'm sorry. I just don't think we were. And he's just so like lost. And when he says to her, he's like, I mean, if you just like, if you just try, like, if you just tried to open up, like, and he's so sincere in that moment and heartbroken, and like, he almost knows, like, she's gone. Like, it's not her. Like, he knows that. And I just love those moments from him throughout this movie. And I really like the funny moment when she first comes into the movie. And he's like, why didn't you tell me? He's like, what the hell, Nebula? Why didn't you tell me that you were in contact with Gamora? And she's like, because I didn't want you to freak out. And he's like, freak out how? she goes, like that. Like,
yeah.
You're freaking out right now. I just thought that everything with them. And then of course, the trailers, the scene with them in the elevator, I think is really, really good too. At Orgo Corp. Yeah, they just have a lot of great scenes. I'm really just thinking back just how many scenes they have together, which is they have a lot. Like, they really, really still have a lot together. And again, leading up to kind of that final moment of the, like, I bet we were fun together, and he's just like you wouldn't believe. It just, these characters feel so real to me. Like, I'm sorry, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I don't know if you know this, but like, Han and Leia to Peter and Gamora, like, what are we talking about here?
Right.
I mean, not like in terms of character development and relationship development. I mean, like, I love you, I know. I bet we were fun, like you wouldn't believe. Like, that to me is like, I was almost crying, not tearing up. I was almost crying just on that. Like, let alone anything to do with Rocket. And I think it just goes to the chemistry that these guys built up together over all these movies and everything like that. But yeah, I think kind of moving over to Peter. Well, I'll go second, I guess, because I went with the Gamora stuff. But how did you kind of feel about Chris Pratt in this one, with his performance, Peter in general, kind of how he carries himself in this movie, everything like that? What are your thoughts on the old?
Yeah, I'm with you on his performance in general. I thought it was amazing. I think it might be one of his best performances in the MCU probably, and maybe one of his best performances in his career period. But yeah, he's kind of going through it. He's dealing with a lot. He's got to save his best friend in Rocket, and then he's got to come to grips with the fact that this Gamora is just not his Gamora, and he needs to accept that, and he's not going to get her back. And although MCU, you never know, I guess. But you know what? Actually, I don't think that's gonna happen because I'm pretty sure Zoe Saldana said she ain't coming back. So, we continue on. But yeah, I just think he did an awesome job in this movie. and he acted his ass off, in my opinion. I don't know what else there is to say. He really went through it in this movie, and I thought Chris Pratt did that wonderfully.
Yeah, I really think. I know we kind of talked about it with Mario. I just, the guy just gets so much flack, and it's like, not to go into, back to the Ted Lasso, commentary conversation, but just like, the guy just seems like a nice guy to everybody that he interacts with. Tom Cruise is crazy, but we all love Tom Cruise. I between this and Mario, man, Chris Pratt is like obviously two very different roles. Mario, I thought he did a really good job with, but this was just another level. I mean, I loved him I loved him as Andy on Parks and Rec, 10, 15 years ago and everything like that, and to see him deliver a performance like this at the center of this movie, whether it's in the beginning of the movie with him being drunk at the kind of like lounge thing where Rocket finds him at the beginning of the movie, and just like these little moments, like when they're all carrying him and the title card comes up and everything, but then when Nebula puts him to bed and he grabs her arm and he's like, "I love you, Gamora," like the look on Karen Gillan's face and the look in her eyes is just like so sad, because she's just like, he's a literal like shell of who he used to be. And like I said earlier, I have specific examples on the top of my tongue that I really loved the first time and really looked out for and loved even more the second time. And one is two people we'll talk about in a minute here, Drax and Mantis, have this great moment where Mantis, gives Drax this like thing to recite to him about the, you've been in a pond leaping from lily pad to lily pad, and I think it's time you learn how to swim, which again is just a beautiful James Gunn line. But I love that moment. And then, Mantis is like, yay, good job, Drax. And then Peter looks over it, because Drax is like, did I do good? And then Peter looks at Mantis and looks back at Drax, and he doesn't go like, you guys. He's just like, oh, okay. And then just walks away. Like, he's so depressed, and I feel it in the character. Like, I feel every single thing that he's going through. And I gotta again go to the track list, because I feel like Awesome Mix Volume 3 is a character in itself. The song "Do You Realize," which I can't even like read right now. Yeah, do you realize by the Flaming Lips. I think that is my either first or second favorite song from this, and it's the song that plays when they put on all of their suits, when they fully suit up to go to Counter Earth to save Rocket. And it's just that shot, I don't know if you remember, it's that shot that starts outside the ship and it goes all the way through the ship up to him, and he's just standing there with his hands on the railing, just looking straight ahead out into space. And then the camera comes all the way around to behind his shoulders and looks out. And it's right after that scene where he's like, why should I be surprised? Everybody in my life dies. My mom, Gamora, now Rocket, all the, like everybody in my Yondu, like everybody in my life dies. And then it hits with that song, and you just see him staring out into space, and I'm like, this guy is, like you said, he is just going through it. Like, and everything, even when there's no dialogue, I feel that through Chris Pratt's performance many, many times in the movie. And then obviously the big trailer moment of the scream, when Rocket does die, however short an amount of time that was, that yell that he gives out is just insane. And even cutting back to the beginning of the movie where he's supposed to be drunk, and Mantis is like, you need to get the med packs like right now. Like, what are you do? Like, and he's just kind of like he's like overwhelmed. He just woke up. He's like overstimulated. And she's like, you need to like wake up and get your shit together right now. Yeah. And then he has that moment like 20 minutes later when he finally like is sobered up and he's like, you know, if I hadn't been drinking, I could have been more with it. I could have done something, you know, quicker for Rocket. And I just think he did such a great job, and they put so much into Peter Quill. And then I guess just to take him all the way to the end, I almost cried at the I bet we were fun line. I completely cried when he went back to Earth, to his grandfather's house. When he hugged him, I was like done. And I saw people out there, saying, and I want to know how you felt about it. I saw people out there saying like that didn't really track for me. Like I don't remember ever Peter being like, you know, oh, like I got to go back to Earth or something like that. Like, yeah. And like specifically people were saying like, you know, the whole gist of this trilogy is found family and everything. And it's like, yeah, but at a certain point too, it's sometimes healthy if you've been running from something all your life, and more importantly, running from the lie you're telling yourself. Because he tells Mantis, he's like, you know, he screamed in my face and pushed me out of the room. We saw that in Guardians 1. That is not what happened. He leaned down and was like, hey, Pete, it's all going to be okay. And then Peter just ran. So, like, he's lying to himself about his grandfather and about Earth. And James Gunn, around Infinity War time, when people were like, you know, has he ever been back to Earth? He was like, why the hell would he want to go back to Earth? Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's the place that took his mother from him. And so I thought that scene where he was reunited with his grandpa really, really hit for me on a really emotional level. But what did you kind of feel about that? Did you think it tracked for you that, like, he would want to go back to Earth to see what's left of a family for him?
I don't want to say it didn't track initially for me. I was just kind of caught off guard just because I didn't really see that coming, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, talking more about it and talking through it a little bit, you know, I think it tracks a little bit better.
Yeah.
So that was really nice to see. It didn't really hit with me emotionally, but, you know, I was happy to see that. Just kind of to keep things moving a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about real quick about, you know, Nebula. Then we'll get into Drax and Mantis, and then I think we can probably go to. I just want to talk about those post-credit scenes because I'm actually very intrigued by both of them.
Yeah.
So Nebula, what'd you think?
I thought she was fantastic. I thought that Karen Gillan has gotten better and better with every single movie.
Mm-hmm.
Every single portrayal of Nebula, I thought she was fantastic in the holiday special. And I thought this was easily her. Like Chris Pratt, you know, you could argue maybe he's had better performances even as Star-Lord. But Karen Gillan, I don't think there's any argument. This is easily the most she's had to do. Probably besides like Endgame was probably the other one where she had the most to do because she was really like one of the main 6 people in Endgame, to be honest. And then, you know, just the emotion and the care. And one thing I really liked about this that we haven't really touched on is they're past the whole like, yeah, this guy. They're just they just love each other. They call each other family. They openly care about each other. And when she's like, when her, and we could transition over to Mantis and Drax, when her Mantis and Drax are getting into that argument, and, you know, she's like, oh my God, you two are just, you know, useless. Like, like, all you do is if anybody shows weakness, you're just there to support it. And he doesn't even know what the hell to do. And Mantis, like, freaks out at him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Pom Klementieff, too. You know, she was phenomenal in this, but we'll talk about Mantis in a second. But within that moment, when everybody's fighting, and Rocket is waking up and getting dressed, and then kind of we almost forget that Rocket is like awake because they're yelling so much, and then over the comms, you know, the whole he's like, you know, the important thing is we're all okay, and Nebula's like, she's like, Rocket, like she like looks like to middle distance, and is like she's like stunned to hear his voice. And just that moment from Karen Gillan, and like I talked about in the beginning when she's putting Quill to bed, I thought that moment was fantastic as well. I think she just, really got to open up in this. And then at the end of the movie, when she's dancing with everybody and like laughing, I was getting emotional with that too, because I mean, this is a girl who had everything stripped away. I mean, Gamora at least knows her culture and where she came from. Nebula, like she says at the end of the movie, she's like, I'm going to take care of nowhere and make it the home that I never even had, that I never even knew. You know, Gamora at least knew where Thanos took her from. Nebula, her mind was wiped, her memories were wiped, her personality was destroyed by her father, of all people. Like, so to see that kind of full circle and to see Karen Gillan perform that full circle, I thought was fantastic. But
at least he picked a nice set of eyes, I guess, to replace her old.
That is true. That is true.
That joke, I think, still worked even in the vie. After
it did. I think
even seeing in the
that,
trailer, I thought it worked.
Like I said, I was just gripped in the movie. Yeah.
I'm with you on Karen Gillan. You know, I thought she was fantastic. Definitely had the most to do out of any of the movies that she's been in previous. Well, I mean, obviously, like you said, Endgame, but yeah, just kind of see her develop and open up a little bit more in this movie was really nice to see. And I don't know how she like just does that. She's so good at that voice. I don't know, like that voice just never wavers. Just, like, I feel like it's probably hard to keep talking in that same voice like consistently. But she knocks it out of the park.
It always I just forget that she not only has a Scottish accent, but is like pitching it down like 5 levels.
Yeah. But no, I thought, Nebula was great. And like you said, that scene where they're all kind of in the big ship and they're all having that argument and that stuff. I thought that was all great. Moving over to Mantis and Drax. I loved both of them again in the movie. For me, Drax was.
Oh, don't do it to me.
No, he was great. Like, Dave Bautista's great. We've already established he's a good actor.
100%.
And Drax was good. He's the biggest comedic part of this group. And for me, not every that was probably my other like kind of knock on this movie is not every single joke hit for me. And it was probably like it was a pretty low batting average. My favorite is a Drax one where it's not even like him saying anything. It's just when they land on what is it called? Never Earth or
Counter Earth?
Counter Earth. And he gets out of the ship and all the people are looking, or all the animal people are looking, and he takes the ball and just throws it at the girl, and the girl falls over and starts crying.
And I love they all like freak out. They go, ah!
Yeah, I thought that was so funny. But
some of his I gotta take a beat because some of his little moments for me, and I totally get it. If it's not because he is the most humorous and he's a very particular joke, kind of humor. Just some of the little, like when you hear the guy on the motorcycle coming and Drax goes, and then he just he just clotheslines him. That guy's probably dead. And then he gets on the bike and he just goes to Mantis. He goes, "Get on the bike," and she's like, "No, we have to stay with the ship." And he's like, "Yeah, we're gonna ride back to the ship." And she's like, "Just over there," and he just goes, "Yeah." And then she gets on and he just takes off. And then like when they're all yelling at OrgoCorp, and I swear to you, both times I laughed. I burst out laughing when he goes when they're like all yelling at each other and Gamora's like, "You put our spacesuits out the airlock," and Drax goes, "Are we fake mad again? Mantis, you asshole!" I was like, I was dying. I literally was dying at that. That was so hilarious. "Mantis, you asshole!" Or when he would call the kids, "Hello, moron." That was so funny.
Can you explain to me though? Speaking of the kids, can you just explain how he just like happens to be like, "Oh yeah, I know the language." It's like, why didn't you say that earlier?
I think that's the idea. Is just that they constantly undervalue him, and Nebula specifically. Enough, I think that's the but then also I actually have seen a lot of cool stuff out there about how Drax might be neurodivergent or on the spectrum or something, and that's kind of a whole other level kind of, he does have this innocence about him because he may be on the spectrum in a character like that. I think that is so cool. And I also just love the message of this movie, which I think is why Dave Bautista, even though he has complained about this character, or just, not complained, not in a Vin Diesel, Dwayne Johnson type of public complaining way, just kind of like has been like, well, he doesn't do much destroying, does he? And to have that come full circle in this last movie and have Nebula be the one who was, yelling at him the whole movie going, no, I need you here with me, because, you weren't born to destroy things. You were born to be a dad. And I was like, God damn, James Gunn. I was like, oh shit. Like, it was so, every single character had a perfect bow tied on them at the end of this movie. Mantis is another one. How did you feel about Mantis in this one?
I'll be honest, her whole story kind of like escapes my mind. She was great. Acting was great. Acting was on point. It was just like, there's so much going on that it's like I just forgot like what her kind of, and I know that obviously she wants to go off on her own and find kind of just find herself, I guess.
Yeah.
For what I gather, just because she was, I know. Speaking of Mantis, but my other big issue, not big issue, but my other issue with this movie, and this goes back to the Christmas special. Why do they have to be siblings? It has no effect on any of this.
I don't know. I like it though. I just feel like.
But they mention it in this movie, and it's like, okay, that's gonna come back around, right? And it never does, and it's like, okay, well, why do we care?
I mean, that is totally fair. I just looked at it as like, you expect it to come back around, and so just the fact that it just doesn't. It's just part of who they are. I thought, and it does kind of inform their parting of the ways at the end, though, because he's doing the whole like, or actually towards the middle of the movie, which again was a great joke of, he's like, why would I want to go back to Earth? Everybody that there dies when they're like 50. And she's like, people die when they're 50? Are you about to die? Like,
she's like, why do you even bother being born?
Yeah, what's the point? Bother being born? That was so funny. Or like her and Drax, the like, you didn't even ask me if I wanted a Zargnut, and he's like, they're all gone. I was like, that was so funny. Yeah. But yeah, even like I said, Pom Clementive's more emotional moments in this movie. I think her biggest emotional moment with the whole, blowing up right back at Nebula, about calling Drax stupid, about saying like, well, he is stupid, but he's sweet and he cares, and it's more than I can say for you. And like, he's the only one of us that doesn't hate himself. And just that whole scene, I thought that she really, really carried it well for somebody who, I'm not going to say that like I didn't think that she was a good actress, but she was just somebody I had never seen before ever. And Mantis was kind of a weird, she still is obviously, but like it was just kind of this like addition in volume 2 that was just like, Mantis is here now. And you're just kind of like, man, she is very like kooky and weird. And to take it from that to somebody who like genuinely has emotions and has value and values her own opinion about the team. She's like, I'm a valued member of this team. I get a voice. It's not just Nebula deciding everything. And so I really like the back and forth kind of with all three of those together. But yeah, anything left on Mantis? And then the last thing I want to get before we go to the post-credit, just real quick, what was your thoughts on the kind of nowhere Cosmo, Kraglin?
Yeah, I want to talk about that. Yeah. The Kraglin kind of like a Rooker that didn't really work for me. That whole thing with Yondu, I don't know, it just didn't really connect. I was a sucker for the good boy or good dog, bad dog thing. I thought that was really
great.
Fun.
Yeah. And then at the end, the payoff, a dog, and he's like, yeah, a good dog. And then I was like, damn. But yeah, and I did like in the beginning too, And I actually had a thought, because we know this movie is years delayed, so it's been written for years. And I saw a complaint that was like, it's 3 projects later, and Kraglin is still struggling with the arrow. I think what happened was this movie was written with him struggling with the arrow at the beginning of it, and then mastering it by the end. And after this movie was written, Kraglin was in 3 other things that I don't think they were planning on him being in. Mm-hmm. So I think that's probably why he's been struggling with the arrow for so long, is because this movie was written well before the Christmas special, well before Thor Love and Thunder, a bunch of his previous stuff. I don't really know if it was sorry, this isn't, the whole like thing in Thor Love and Thunder where like Kraglin keeps marrying people. I don't know why I don't know why that was never addressed in this or anything, but yeah, I like that. But at the beginning, when he was like trying to do the whistle, and he whistles at Adam Warlock, and it just hits his cheek, and he goes, "Who threw that at me? Who threw that?" I was like, that was so funny, just like this child. But yeah, I like that, and I like Nowhere as their base and everything like that too. But yeah, so we end the movie, Rocket alive again.
Sorry, real quick. Real quick question just before we get into the post-credits scenes. How shocked were you that nobody was dead?
After the fact, I feel like it's the only way that they could have gone. During the movie, I was like,
they kept teasing it.
Nobody died. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, Drax.
One point, Drax got shot. Yeah.
Rocket at the beginning of Jesus Christ, homie got shot point blank with a laser beam to the chest. I was like, dude, that guy is dead. I was like, he is gone. But luckily not. But then we kind of glossed over it. Peter is 3 for 3 on turning into an icicle in space. He's done it in every movie. In this one, I thought he was, what would you do for a Klondike bar? I thought he was about to bust out of his wrapper for a second there. He was starting to puff up and everything. I know we talked about that a little bit earlier on the Adam Warlock side of things, but I'm glad that Peter made it out. Although I said on this show too, I did have a worry that I thought Peter could go, just to be like the most emotional thing possible for this to do is like Peter sacrificing his life for Rocket or something. But did you just ask me a question? Oh, about
I just asked you,
that nobody died. That's right.
Yeah.
But yeah. So speaking of, nobody dies. Not even the High Evolutionary. Although I like how brutalistic and just down to business Chris Pratt. You know what? Let's just real quick. We're about to end here. Let's talk real quick here about the action, because I thought it easily the best action of the trilogy. I think that hallway fight, the No Sleep Till Brooklyn fight, was masterful. I mean, the fact that James Gunn has said that basically no stunt doubles for the main actors made the final cut. Obviously, they use stunt doubles, but that most of that is them, and you can really tell that with Chris Pratt and Gamora and Zoe Saldana. You can really tell that is really them doing all that choreography. But yeah, I thought the action, and even the stuff with the Orgo Corp, with the kind of breakout, the kind of like break in and then subsequent breakout. I thought both sides of that were really, really good. And I thought all the action at the beginning with Adam Warlock was really, really good too. But yeah, what did you just thoughts on the action and everything, and then we can move into post credit.
Agree. I think my favorite action scene was in the end when they're in the big ship. And that whole kind of slow motion / gore. By the way, this movie's a little scary too. We didn't touch on that when they peel off the High Evolutionary's face.
Yeah.
A little scary. But when
somebody was like, "That's what Red Skull should have looked like." If that's what Red Skull looked like in 2011, people would have ran for the hills. Like what? That is terrifying.
slashing aliens in the hallway, that slow motion, those like kind of turning shots, all that stuff, that was all really cool.
Oh, and the kill when he drops the guy to the earth, when he literally falls down and crushes the guy into the earth and then drowns him. I was like, holy shit. And then there's, even in that scene with him and Groot, there's a moment where Peter goes, kill them all. Like, just like, I'm like, oh my God. Like, they were just ready to, he was not messing around in this movie, man. He was really not messing around. But post-credit scenes. First one, we got Rocket, the whole new lineup. So at the end of the movie, everybody goes their separate ways. Rocket decides to stay on. He stays on as the captain of the Guardians. So we get a Guardians team of the girl, who I believe is, I think her name is Falavel, but she's basically in the vein of she's in the Captain Marvel universe. She's a Captain Marvel character mainly. But she is now part of this team. We got Kraglin, we got Cosmo, we got Adam Warlock, we got Rocket, of course, and then Groot. I don't think I left anybody out. And then Cosmo. I don't know if I said Cosmo. Is also on the team. So what were your thoughts on this? Just kind of this nice action scene showing Rocket as the leader. And also within that, I liked that they were like, all right, who's going to do it? And Kraglin, it shows so much character growth because Kraglin goes, all right, I can do this by myself, like just with the arrow. And then it shows character development on Rocket because Rocket goes, no, let's do it together. It'll be faster. But it's also, he shows that he's a good leader and everything like that. So what were your thoughts on this kind of new Guardians team?
That was all interesting. I didn't know who that younger girl was, so thank you for filling me in. And we don't get a Guardians of the Galaxy will return at the end. So that leaves me to believe that it's kind of like here's, if we ever kind of go back to it or when we do, they're here,
I think we're going to see them.
I would imagine so. But yeah, I thought that was all really cool. And then obviously the second one we get is Peter going back home to Earth, seeing his grandfather. Grandfather very happy to see him, very happy. And they're sitting at the kitchen table, they're eating breakfast, and I missed some conversation about somebody mowing the lawn or something, I don't know. And then we get Peter Quill will return, which I was shocked.
Excuse me. The legendary Star-Lord will return,
which I was shocked. I thought Chris Pratt was done after this. Were you as surprised or no?
I thought it was interesting that out of oh my God, out of the entire cast, the three people that never said anything one way or another of this is my last one was Karen Gillan, Bradley Cooper, and Chris Pratt. Everybody else said, this is my last one.
We're done.
Everybody else said this was my last. Actually, Palm Clemente, I don't know if she said one way or another. But those three I know never said anything about it. So I was not surprised because I equally was not surprised when I thought he was about to die. I was like, oh, all right, he's really done. Like, his face is about to blow up. But I equally was not surprised at this because... it's Star-Lord. I mean, he's a character outside of the Guardians. He is bigger than that. Just like I think, look at Rocket and Nebula in Endgame. They worked completely away from the Guardians. They were just Avengers in that movie, and they were Earth-based and checking back in with Carol Danvers and Rhodey and everybody. I think I would love to see that for Chris Pratt. I would love... just let Star-Lord show up in, Kang Dynasty, but not as, we need to go get the Guardians. Just like have it be, no, Star-Lord's just an Earth-based hero right now. Just like in the comics, you'd have Avengers go be on the Guardians, and you have Guardians come to Earth and be on the Avengers. I think that's a great opportunity to do that now that you have him on Earth. Maybe we see him in like Wonder Man, or maybe we see him in like She-Hulk season 2 or something. I don't know, anything like that. Secret Invasion. I don't know. Maybe Chris Pratt's in that show that they filmed 6 months ago and just nobody knows about it. But yeah, I really, really like that. And like I said, it really did hit emotionally for me. But what were your kind of thoughts when you saw, not the Guardians will return, but that the legendary Star-Lord will? And also just kind of circle back, do you think that core team of Guardians is going to return?
Yeah, I was surprised to see that he would come back, just because I honestly assumed that they were all done after Gunn was gone. So to see that there's a possibility of him coming back, that's interesting. I wonder where he'll show up or where he fits into the universe going forward. But I do think that we will see a return of the current kind of new band of characters at some point. I don't know if it'll be like their own movie.
Yeah.
Because, I feel like you kind of have to build up. Like, obviously you have Groot and Rocket. But just like kind of all of them together, you have to build up that kind of what's the word?
Camaraderie
or
connection.
Like chemistry, but connection between all of them to make like a full movie maybe. So maybe you see them show up in a show or a movie, like a different movie or something.
Somebody said I think it was not New Rockstars. I think it was Screen Crush. They put out a theory video that was like, maybe we could see, when everybody else is dealing with all this multiverse stuff, maybe we could see like a cosmic kind of saga playing out at the same time. And rather than making a Guardians 4, you could make a movie called like Annihilation or something. And have like Rocket be one of the main characters, but it's not necessarily a Guardians movie. Right. So kind of like what you were saying, I think I could see that happening very easily, that they're like, hey, Bradley Cooper is going to be the lead in this film, but it's not a Guardians movie and it's not a Rocket movie. It's just kind of a movie about the cosmic side of the Marvel universe. And I think you could, whatever you call that, you could just call it something totally different too. But I think that'll definitely be back. But what were your kind of last thing? What are your kind of hopes to see for Star-Lord being on Earth?
I guess to kind of, would you say he has to assimilate to life on Earth at this point?
I would say so, yeah, because I mean it's yeah, he didn't even know how to drive a car.
Right. So I would be very interested to see that. I don't know how that works in a movie or anything like that, but maybe build relationships, find somebody new on Earth.
Yeah.
I maybe he won't ever, because that was Gamora was the love of his life, obviously, but maybe he see him build new relationships. That's probably what I would like to see. I don't know how you fit that into anything, but
yeah. I would love to see a Star-Lord and Winter Soldier team up. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think a way that you could, I think the MCU needs to get away sometimes from these big of having to eventize everything and just make like an Iron Man 2. You know what I mean? Like just make like a special a Disney Plus special presentation, and you're like, that's a goofy idea, but like just have it be a Star-Lord and Winter Soldier team up. And just be like, these were the two guys that the Avengers had available for this mission. You know what I mean? Like something like that. I would love to see something like that from him. I just hope that wherever we see any of these characters that, and I don't know if it's even possible, but I just hope that they would be written with the same care that James Gunn wrote them. Which, like I said, do I think that's really possible? I really don't think that's possible. I don't think that a lot of these characters, I don't think will be written this well the next time we see them, but I could be totally wrong on that. Anything else on Guardians?
Nope, that's it.
All right. That will do it for our entire spoiler discussion on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Let us know in the comments down below what you thought of the movie. Thank you guys so much for joining us on this video. We'll catch you in the next one. All right. So, thank you guys for joining us on this episode of PFN Live. TJ, last thing I need to get your thoughts on that I just saw, because I have been tapped out of the internet. Because of the writer's strike, it looks like Daredevil production has been shut down indefinitely. What are your thoughts? I mean, this show, we already know that this was going to be like a 9-10 month shoot. They're not even halfway into it, and now it's shut down. So, what do you think? Big delay here.
My thought is give the writers what they deserve.
Boom. No AI. No AI.
Did you see, real quick, since you're back on Twitter, did you see my DM?
No, I did not.
Oh, go look at it real quick.
Okay. Right now? Like, right now?
Yeah, just go look at it. It's funny. You might have seen it too, because it includes a you're on the wrong account.
Oh shit.
Or if you're not logged in, then just look on your phone or whatever.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'll look at it in a second.
All right.
But yeah, I mean, I think unfortunate about the Daredevil thing, but I think a lot of things are going to bounce back, hopefully, once the writer's strike is over. But, you know, a friend of mine brought up a great point. We were talking about, you know, what are they going to do with all the... Why did they shoot Echo? Why did they shoot Agatha? It's all just sitting on a shelf. Shelf content is exactly what you need during a writer's strike.
Mm.
You know, Daredevil's got to be delayed, but hey, we have that Echo series just sitting there with Daredevil in it. But yeah. So, guys, let us know what you thought about everything we talked about down below. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Just going to wrap it up here. My name is Sean Monk. I've been one of your hosts.
I've been another host, TJ Cornwell. Thank you for watching. Let us know what you thought about any of the topics in the comments below. Like, comment, subscribe. Follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram.